Hello, welcome to Seismic Module 1. Right, so my shared screen shows the landing page of the course, and this is what you have probably seen, just a couple of things about us. And here's the Module 1 where we're concerned with today, and that's what we want to look at. So let's smoothly go over when you use your login credentials that you should have obtained from our administrator. Here's the landing page of the Moodle of our course. So all the materials are on the Seismic Moodle. So whenever we refer to that Seismic Moodle, this is what it looks like, and you are inside the learning environment. Doesn't look quite like you for this because I have some administrative rights here, but mostly it will be the same. So just to recapitulate what it is all about, Seismic has been running for 9 years now. It's been more than 2,500 people who have already taken the course before you. So you're actually part of a huge community of bioscientists in Great Britain, mostly, where we have been running this. And so materials are sort of tested and updated based on feedback. And that's where we have ended now. We have on the top of this Moodle, we have 4 tabs. You can see home is where all the materials are. So that's your point of reference. There are more tabs which are quizzes, online tutorials, and contact us. Obviously, you can just click on them, see what you get. I'll come back to this at the end. Just want to alert you that in case you're on the wrong tab, you may not see what you expect to see. So home is where we want to be. And then where it starts with Module 1, this contains the materials. If I just scroll down quickly, all the lessons are there summarized just as an overview. And this is what I'm going to tell you now. So, as an introduction, you have been inscribed to Module 1, and we are here in the welcome webinar. Obviously, the webinars for this, just because that's the first thing that it says here, will start on 11th of May with the opening of the first lesson. Just an introduction to MATLAB, and we assume for this first lesson that you have no prior programming experience. So that's your point to get into materials. Maybe watch the webinar live or watch the recording of the webinar afterwards and get started with just familiarizing yourself with everything needed for the rest of the course. So we have 4 main sections. After that introduction, sort of just setting up the environment, our first section of the course, so to speak, will be network biology, and that contains, in addition to the MATLAB introduction, 3 more sessions. I'll look into any of the sessions later. After that will be a part that is more abstract, but it sort of gets you used to this algorithmic type of thinking that you need when you do a programming in the context of biosciences. There's then a sort of a bifurcation, a forking out where you can choose to either continue with statistics and a language called R, or you prefer Python, the language Python, then that's based on bioinformatics contents, and you can have that. And the idea here is, well, there are, of course, many more languages out in the world. You get a feel of how after 8 sessions with MATLAB, when you're suddenly faced with a new language, how it's actually not that difficult to get into a new language which is on a similar level of difficulty. So we think it's extremely important to at least try that. And the reason is because once you go out, maybe in 2 years or 3 years from now, you have another job from the job where you're currently, you join another company, you join a hospital, and then they tell you, we're not using MATLAB, we're using X, Y, Z, whatever there is. And then, of course, you have to relearn. So this is part of saying, yeah, one language is good if you know how to do things, but there's actually a flexibility needed, a lifelong learn it. So if you need to, if you want to call it like this, then you are prepared. Anything that has to do with programming in the context of bioscientists, I think will be available for you if you have done this course. And whether you choose statistics with R or bioinformatics with Python doesn't really matter. It's up to you which one, where you feel more inclined. And once that's finished, the last thing is sort of final project. And this is basically, that's going back to MATLAB, take all the skills that you have learned, put them together, make a dynamical modeling project and describe some data, make some predictions and so on, basically to show what you have learned. And that's the end of it. And we'll ask you to give some feedback such that we know where we have done well and also where we may have not done so well. So as an example, let's go into one of the lessons. And I don't take the very first one because it's kind of exceptional, sort of just setting the scene, but one of the normal lessons will be networks, the first normal regular lesson, networks 1. And let's have a look at what it looks like if you click there. So if you just sort of go back, if you click on what to do in this session here, what to do in this session, you will get into a page where it gives you instructions. So for every session, this is the point of reference. Go there, read it, and you'll be told what you have to do. So apart from many things, it tells you all, gives you also links. And it shows you how, after you have done the, gone through the materials, what to do about the assignment. So there's a template for the assignment, and there's some instructions that have to do with different versions of MATLAB. You know, that like software keeps being updated, and then what, if you choose the latest, you should be fine. But if you have an older version, sometimes things run differently, and there we try to put hints corresponding to this there, and so on. So this is the important thing to start with. Just get a quick overview of what to do in this session. I'll skip, I'll come back to the quizzes later. The materials are contained in 2 forms. So every lesson has 2 ways of accessing them. One is web and one is PDF, where web is an HTML format just in your web browser, but requires access to internet. And that's what we'll have a look at right now. For offline download, you can also go to a PDF. If you click on the PDF here, you can have a PDF access. You can download that and use it offline when you are not connected to the internet. Typically, the web version is hyperlinked and more easily navigated as compared to a PDF. So let's go there. But of course, PDF contains almost everything as well. So if we click there, that's our online textbook. If you unfold, there are little triangles there always to unfold what's there. So that will be your first session starting now, if you like, if you have access. And then our first regular will be the networks. So let's have a look at what this looks like, which then will also show you how to work. So here we have the first session, which is the soil biota food web. This is a biological example. Here's the actual material. You can see it's, you can navigate it on the left-hand side, these individual parts of it, and I'll just give a brief overview. So we have at every lesson as a starting point, we have a biological example, hoping that this will make the abstract contents more relatable, such that you sort of understand the problem that we're going to address from a biological, biomedical, or medical perspective, if you have, which we assume you have, somehow bioscience background. So in this case, it just shows a simple a picture where there's some boxes and arrows, and that's supposed to introduce the network idea. But coming from this, of course, is clear that bacteria are being eaten by nematodes, and these by mites maybe, and then the worms on the higher level. So just giving you a sort of a hierarchical network idea to introduce this idea of network and say, now how do we deal with this structural information? And then comes the important part, of course. We abstract from the biology and go to how to deal with this concept of network in this case. And that will be an introduction to what is called graph theory in mathematics in a simplified version, such that it is easily accessible from the few things that are written here. And after you see what is a network in abstract terms, of course, you want to do it in code, and that's how you start programming. And you will set up your network matrix and so on. So there's instructions here, show how to do it, and you can check what you write and what should the output be. And then, of course, you test yourself with multiple numerous exercises. You do one exercise after the other, test yourself, see if you have understood the problem, and do this and do that is the task there. Now, it's a nice thing. Of course, you can always peep into the solution that is correct. After you have tried yourself, you check whether it's there. You click on the solution. You say, this is what you have, what you should have written. Hopefully it's all right. If not, just go back a paragraph up in the document or in the web page and check again, because it should be clear from what is written there how to do this. And the solution can be clicked in and away and then more complicated and so on. The disadvantage of working from the PDF is it doesn't have the solution, so come back to the web-based version for the solutions. Right, then every lesson, well, I don't go further to it. There's many more, of course, visualizing graphs and so on. That's how you do such graphs in code and everything, and many more exercises, also about visualizing. So there's one exercise that doesn't have a solution. If I just scroll down, where is it? Here. There's an exercise 216 where you can see, oh, there's no solution there. Now that is your assignment. That's your coursework, if you like. That is where you need to do something to show what you have learned, and the document that you produce, like the MATLAB code, you can upload it on our webpage. Instructions you will get how to work in this lesson. And so you just produce your MATLAB code, and then you can upload it to our webpage, and we see if it's there, and so on. So every lesson has an assignment. And once you have uploaded the assignment, fill out a short feedback questionnaire. So like, how did you find that lesson? What was good, what was bad? And then you have access to the solution, to a model solution. So you can check yourself, your own performance. Was it good? Was it bad? Maybe go back, or if everything was right, which I assume will be, then continue to the next lesson. Right. If I go back and we have a look at what to do in this session, No, I think I forgot one thing. Let me just go back to that textbook. And if you have now a look on the left-hand side, there's the navigation of that page, right? So we have just been towards the end, somewhere here, using Biograph interactively for this lesson. And so here you are in this point. However, if you are interested in going much deeper into it, for every topic there's a detailed mathematical background where everything is explained step by step. It's called the mathematical background. So you can skip that. You don't have to do it. It's all optional. All the mathematical background is optional, but it's nice tested material from the Open University, refined over decades. And so if you feel you are either interested or curious, or you desperately need some background in carefully explaining you what all this is about, then here's where you will find explanation plus further exercises plus solutions, of course, to exercises if needed. Right. So, and then we are here. We have the assignment. If we just go back to the assignment details for this, you can also find it here under assignment details. If you're ready to upload something, go to assignment details and find, that's my view here, but here we'll find a link to upload your assignment code. In this way, you can work through everything. Every lesson has this kind of structure. And maybe you have seen at some point there were a couple of links to so-called quizzes. You will find, if you just go up to the very top tab that is called quizzes for every lesson. I click on it, and now we are in the quizzes tab for every lesson, like Networks 1 that we have just seen. There are a couple of quizzes for self-testing, either while you learn or after you have, or before you do the assignment, or to review just for anything. It's always open. Click on it and you will get into a couple of quizzes that will give you questions. Attempt Quit Now will give you questions, and then you can give answers and get a result, how many were good and how many were not so good. So that is the quizzes tab. And finally, being on the tabs here with the online tutorials, these are basically things that come out of the webinars, either in isolation or as a complete video. There are videos here for you to watch, connected to every lesson that we have there. So Introduction to MATLAB has a couple of videos with it. Networks 1 that we just saw has 3 videos with it. Also a recording of a previous webinar. Here is where you will also find the links to the webinar. So everything under online tutorials. And these are just YouTube videos that while clicking, you will get access to it and you can watch them, stop, go back, and so forth. Typically, we also provide the code here when it says you can download the code. Then whatever is talked about in the webinar, you can have the code for download such that you can have a worked out and tested code that actually produces the result for comparison with the one that you produce yourself. Right. It's complicated. Well, it's simple. Once you have started doing it, I think after the second lesson, you will be getting used to that kind of pattern because it's repetitive. So it's easy to orient once you know where everything is. So go back to homepage from online tutorials, go back to homepage. That's where we have everything. I might also point, just having talked about the webinars, we are here in the welcome session. There's a calendar for the webinars. If I just click on it. Then a PDF should open, which gives you access to a timetable. You can download it if you like. And you can see now we are 27th of April. And then in May start the webinars with an introduction to MATLAB networks and so on, up to building models. So Marius will guide you through that, give you code, give you explanations. And of course, there's also a place then, if you can join live, to interact, to come, ask questions, and so on. And the recording of the webinar, if possible, will record everything and put it up on the webpage maybe a day later or so. Typically it's 1 or 2 days later when the recording is processed, and you will have access to it even if you were not able to join live. Right. So that's almost everything that we need to know. I want to round up this by showing you a little bit of the possibilities where to get help in case you're sitting there maybe by yourself and not really knowing what to do next or how to solve a problem like code typically doesn't run, right? The problem in coding is you have to do debugging most of the time to get it to run. So what do you do if you don't know what to do? Then let me show you a couple of things. Well, first thing we have seen for the solving the problems that have to do the assignments. So what you need to upload, that's actually how we do the webinars. The webinars are typically meant to aid you in getting the assignment done properly. So if you want, the first point of contact might be those online tutorials where you see previous assignments or previous webinars, how it was done. You can watch that and probably get some help from there already. So watch those online tutorials if you want to have sort of an introduction or a walk through those things. Second thing, maybe you have noticed that here for every lesson, like we looked at Networks 1 here, apart from what to do in the session and assignment, there's the so-called forum. So that's your possibility to ask a question. So during the webinar, if you are live, like now, you could, of course, ask the question directly. If not, if you're just in the middle of the night doing something, post it to the forum. We do have online tutors, so tutors from UCL, University College London, who try to help you if possible. Well, they typically can help you, but post your question in context to a certain session here. So please use that and use it in 2 ways. The first thing that you might want to do, to have a look at whether in the curated forum post that others have posted, whether or you already find your question posted, because then you might have the answer already. And because these have expanded over the years, many typical answers that you might have as a beginner are already answered. And so it might be the quickest way to just see what others have asked before in that session. And then, of course, then you post your question, just type your text. Please put in code. Anything that you have programmed or tried to do, put in the code as an appendix or add the code file or make a screenshot and let us know everything that has happened before you have produced the error. And we'll then check it and maybe come back and say, what versions of Windows do you have if it's something very serious? Mostly you'd be fine if you just post your code there. So these are the online forums. And of course, you have by now, you have had contact with our administrator. If there's anything related to software or anything maybe that goes a little bit apart from the actual content of the session, and you think, we are the person who could help you. You can also contact our administrator by email with a question, and she will try to redirect it to Marius, to me, to our online tutors, and see whether we can help you. The good news is in programming, there's always a solution. So unlike in real life, where there may not be, but in programming, there is always a solution. I don't know if it takes 5 minutes or 5 days to resolve it, but it can be resolved. I'm very sure about that part. And so that's a little bit of the help that you can get. And of course, that's our contacting our administrator is also the point. If you say fall behind and you say, actually, I'm on a very important field project or experiment, or my manager sent me to the United States, and you sort of want to delay your submissions, just let our administrator know, and you will adjust accordingly, and you will be fine, continuing after a short gap if needed. Yes, so if you have an immediate question, you can try the chat functionality of Zoom, and Marius might be able to pick it up while I talk, but we're actually close to the end of the session. So let me alert you to the first webinar. So we're going to start 11th of May. And these are always, unless very, very big exceptions, we want to be Wednesday, 11 to 12 British summertime. That is for you. And as I mentioned, if possible, we also record these sessions and put up the link later if you can't do that specific time, because we have people from a wide variety of backgrounds with different jobs. It's not easy to find that one spot where everybody fits in. So 11th of May, if you like, 11 to 12, typically 45 to 60 minutes long, where we have exercises, coding that helps you do the assignment for each of the lessons. And then typically in a bi-weekly pace from Networks 1 onward. But you see there's a catch up and reflection, sort of to give you a little bit of a free time, because we know that it tends to accumulate very quickly if you fall behind. I think one thing that I haven't mentioned is for the final assignment. When we ask you to do a final assignment, and sort of we then see how you have worked and base our certification of the course for you, I'm very sure you will all be able to do it, because more than 2,000 people have done it before you, so there's no problem. If you have any problem, ask us for individual help. If you send us a draft, as we suggest you do, we'll have tutors that will look at your final assignment one by one and give detailed feedback, sort of line by line or question by question. So no problem with this. You will get into contact with a personal tutor who will give your, tell you what stage or how good you have done with your assignment, such that we make sure you will be able to get the best out of the course. That will then complete everything. You will get certification after that. And from the feedback that we have had, this seems to be a useful thing. First of all, you know some programming, you'll be able to work in other programming languages as well. Second thing, we find that frequently people learn the value once they know how to apply to their own data. And thirdly, for many doctoral students who have taken the course, they actually put that immediately into their CV. You can also have an online badge form from us for that, to put it in an online CV. And people are very frequently asked about their programming skills in interviews for jobs, because all bioindustry, pharmaceutical industry, and at university, people think it's extremely valuable to know how to program on that kind of level. Right. Marios, do you have anything that you would like to add? Sorry for talking non-stop.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of tips to share with the participants, though I can see that we are out of time. So I will save them for the next session when we dive into MATLAB. For now, I will just sum everything up into the thing that we are seeing bioscience having become during the last 20 years at least more quantitative, and this has opened new ways to follow in research. So quantitative skills have become essential nowadays, and SEISMIC is a well-established program with some well-refined material that will help the participants to follow their way into this sector.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining now. Remember that first webinar, or go into the materials right away. Try to contact us with whatever problem you have. We'll hope we'll be able to solve it, and good success with your work from us at University College London. Bye.